Welcome to another video. Unfortunately, we need to start this video with some bad news. A few of you have commented there was a lot more space. There is no longer an awesome Series 2 up on the lift. It's gone. It's been collected. It's sold. I put it on Instagram and it sold straight away. I probably sold it too cheap. I was never going to get round to it. I was never going to get finished. I have got such little time with the repair shop and then filming here and then doing the Ranalah stuff and obviously this thing sitting here that I'm desperate to do. I've had that Land Rover here for over a year, shunting it back and forwards, pushing it in and out, up and down the lift, out the way, bashing my head on the wheels. Coming to the workshop started to feel a bit overwhelming, as in there's just too many projects here, too much stuff going on. And so by having a bit of a clear out, you've probably noticed on my Instagram, I've given away a load of stuff, my old industrial sewing machine, pillar drills, old tools that I don't really use anymore. And the Land Rover was part of that realization of actually, let's focus our energy on the things that we really want to do. The Ranalah project, the Porsche, and obviously the coffee van, which we're nearly there, it's getting there. Just to free up some space in the workshop, free up some headspace for me, to just feel a bit less overwhelmed by the amount of projects that I've got in here. That was the one, the Land Rover, the Series 2, had to go. It was a big project, realistically, I was just never going to get around to it. So I'm gutted. I was really looking forward to putting a big engine in it and a new chassis and driving around and enjoying driving around in an old Land Rover. But at the moment, it's not going to happen. So I'll pass it on to somebody else who's going to enjoy it and hopefully has got more time than me to actually put into it and be able to finish it properly. That does free up more time to do the Porsche and get these things finished. So it's not all bad, is it? Hey, come on. But I'm determined. I've got a few hours now before I have to head down to the repair shop. I'm going to get the bottom of that neon sign finished, welded on. The R is separate to the Ranalah. So it needs to sit on a frame, much like the Hollywood signs that you'd see where they've got the kind of grid behind them of box section. So I will sit and draw that on the computer, work out where that needs to go, get some steel, make that, hopefully, and then I can start thinking about mounting brackets and bolts to actually bolt the lettering to the frame. So there's a fair bit of work to do, but I've got a few hours. Let's get into it. I was missing the whole sort of scrolly part at the bottom. It was up and down, up and down, up and down. So I've taken a slightly different approach to the rest of it, and I've actually pre-made all of the pieces, welded them all together off of the letter, so they're all one big, long, wavy line, welded it all together, ground it all down, sanded it down, finished it all nicely, so it's all nice and clean, then attached that whole piece to the bottom of the lettering. Slightly terrifying way of doing it, because a lot could go wrong over such a big panel, but it worked out really well. The next thing I need to do with them is sand them all down, grind down all the welds, sand down all the welds, and spend a long time sort of fettling and finishing them, filing them all down. And I can't do that here because I haven't got my compressor, as you know from the previous video. So let's get into making this grid. Okay, so the program I'm using is Illustrator. Here we go. So this is the actual file that I've laser cut. So you can see the 30mm holes and then the little dots, and there's the Ranalah text. I need to be careful. Where these 30mm holes are, the glass is going to be coming through there, and there's going to be an electrode on the back which has a wire coming out of it. So I don't want the grid that holds all the letters together to actually sort of impede that area on any of these letters. So you can see this is going to be the box section structure. Slightly hitting it there, which is kind of okay because all there is a wire coming out the back, so that should be all right. The only dodgy one is the end of the H. There. That's a bit scary, but again, it's only half, so hopefully that'll be enough room. That's the plan. There's the lettering, and that's my grid. I realise that probably looks a little bit extravagant. The grid is quite a lot going on. Keeping the grid horizontal and vertical. It would be very easy to do it diagonally and have follow the curve, bend them around the shapes of the letters and have them all diagonal. But then when it comes to mounting it and hanging it, having the verticals and horizontal lines of the grid perfectly vertical and perfectly horizontal is absolute. I mean, there's a reason why all the Hollywood signs you see have the perfect vertical grid on them. There is a reason. And it's when it comes to hanging it and standing it up or anything like that, like the Dom sign, for example, I've ended up welding feet onto the back of it, welding legs and then putting it on the floor. By having those vertical lines on the back makes it a lot easier. And I think it flows nicer and just feels a bit more balanced and a bit more even. Because you will see some of the bars where they're peeping in between the letters. So if I keep them all nice and symmetrical, nice and even, vertical and horizontal, nice and balanced, it will just kind of blend into the background and be more subtle. So that's my reasoning for making it fairly complicated, but I think it's a legitimate reason. So next thing to do is to print that file full size. I'll tile it together with my little A4 printer, sit and stick all the pieces of paper together so I can lay that on the table and then cut the lengths of box section to fit in each piece, weld it all together, we're good to go. If everything's worked out well, I should be able to lie this R on top and it'd be the same size. Yeah, okay, perfect. All the pieces are cut. I know it still looks a little bit complicated, but I promise you, it makes sense. It makes sense in my head anyway. After all that welding, I'm pleased to say the frame is pretty much flat. It's got a little bit of a bow in one side, but I'm going to lean on the side of it and bend it back again. This is exactly why I much prefer TIG welding. In my first introduction to welding, I talk about MIG and TIG. MIG welding tends to be the more kind of entry level. If you've never done it before, get a MIG welder. But for things like this, I mean, TIG welding takes a little bit longer to do, but honestly not too much longer. And the beauty of it is we've got these nice, clean, smooth welds that don't really need any grinding down. So that is pretty much, I mean, a couple of high spots here and there, but basically that is ready to go. You could go and send that straight to powder coat after welding. Whereas with MIG welding, you'd be left with quite a proud weld sticking on top of the surface that will have to then be ground down. There's pros and cons, but this is a perfect example of why TIG welding is better for some things. It's good, I love it. Right, what on earth is going on here then? Why have I drawn white lines all over it? So basically I marked on the letter, on the paper, where I wanted my bolt holes to be, and my brackets, and then I've laid over the top. So I drew my lines on the paper, oversized, I shot them out the sides, lay the metal frame back on, and then just transfer the lines onto the metal. This is the best way that I know how to do this. I bet there's a better way of doing it, but I've always done it this way. It's quite time consuming, so I would love to know if there is a better way of doing it. But without any more tools and equipment and fancy stuff. I don't know. This way works. Hey, it's simple, slightly more time consuming, but it works. Tried and tested. And it's the only way I know where I can make sure I get all the lettering exactly spaced where I want them. But hey, let me know if I'm doing this wrong. Basically, the back of the letters is all open. I need a way of bolting these securely to the frame. Very securely, as there's 15. I think I've got slightly carried away with the amount of fixings. I probably needed about 4, and I've ended up with 15. So maybe I won't use them all. But anyway, I've drilled the holes now, so who cares? It'll be a very secure sign. The same steel that I was using to actually make the letters, I've just folded it into like a U profile. Drilled a hole. And then put on a riv nut. You know what these are by now. It's essentially, imagine like a rivet. So they start life like that. So inside there is a thread, like a nut, sort of held inside this housing. And see those that little knurled bit around the edge, the little teeth. You fit that in a tool, like a pair of pliers, like a rivet gun, and you clamp it, and it crushes, squishes up, and then looks like that. There you go. And so just like that, simple, really quick, really simple to do. Drill a hole, push it in, clamp it with the pliers. From the face, I've ended up with a captive nut. So all I need to do is offer this up. Let me just do that quickly now. I've just put a couple of tack welds either side on that little return. That'll hold it in place. And hopefully keep everything crossed that riv nut lines up with the hole that I've just drilled in the frame, and that I can just put a bolt from the back and it'll hold the letter on. Make it sound so easy, but let's hope it lines up. It's pitch black. All my stuff's in the van. This can only mean one thing. The fun and games of the weekend are over. I've packed the van. I'm going back down to the repair shop for the rest of the week. Annoyingly, I got those riv nuts on. I got a lot of the brackets fitted on. A lot of the brackets, not all of them. And I haven't got any M5 bolts here. I've wandered around this place looking everywhere for any M5 bolts. I don't know why I used the M5 riv nuts when I've got M6 ones. I don't know. But I have got M5 bolts at the repair shop. So I've brought the sign, I've brought the frame, I've brought everything there. It's so frustrating, but it's been a good weekend. It's been a good weekend. We've been really productive, got a lot done. Slight change of scenery. No longer in the workshop, and I do not know what has happened, but somehow it's Thursday already, and annoyingly I've not even started sanding down, grinding down the welds on the sign. Literally, it's been so busy at the barn with the repair shop, I have not had a spare minute to even get the sign out the van. So I said to Dan, I was like, come on Dan, we've got a couple of hours before the sun goes down, let's go and do something. And he was like, oh, you know what, Dan said, it was so funny. He was like, oh, let's go and find that windmill. A few people that know, a few people have said, up that lane, by that pub, up there, up the top of the hill. And every now and then when you're driving around, you can see a glimpse of it at the top of the hill, but it looks like it's so far away in the middle of nowhere. And we've never been up there. I think it's up this path. There we go. So I've driven straight here from the repair shop. Dan's gone. I think he's not far behind me. Dan's going to be coming as well. We are going to maybe get lost, to be fair. I think it's quite likely that we might get lost. It's quite nice. It's been a really busy, fairly stressful week, and it's quite nice to actually have a bit of a break. I can't stay there and sand down my sign, so before you say it, I could be making better use of my time, I know, but I can't get in. It's all locked up. We had to leave. So what better thing to do than come for a walk? The sun is shining, as you can see. Look at that. It's moments like this when I realise how unfit I actually am. Oh my God, it feels like it's not even that steep a hill, but I bet we've barely started. Dan is storming ahead. I think he's a bit fitter than me. Used to carrying that heavy camera, I suppose, and the little tripods, but hang on, Dan. This camera is quite expensive. It's a Sony, hang on, what is it? A ZV-1. I bought this when I first started filming for YouTube, so that's just over a year now, but it's done well. It's done well, the poor thing, and I'm not very good at looking after it. It has taken a few tumbles, fallen off the workbench, fallen down the staircase a couple of times, been in the sandblaster and got covered in grit, covered in paint. It's had a bit of a hard life, so a bit of shout out to Sony. Great job. It's a very robust camera. It's doing its job, but I dropped it the other night on the concrete and I smashed the screen. This camera's days may be numbered. It might be coming to the end of its life. We've made it.
We made it.
There he is. But unfortunately, they've taken the propellers off. Or what were they called, Dan?
Sweeps.
Sweeps. Sorry, they've taken the sweeps off. Why are they called sweeps? I have no idea.
They sweep through the wind.
They do what?
They sweep through the wind.
Not sweeping through the wind, do they?
They do.
I'm sure someone out there can inform us more. Someone much more educated than Dan. But it still looks pretty. Not quite as nice, but there we go. Minus its propellers, I think it still looks nice. Lovely tiles. I'm going to get close up at the tiles. I don't know if you can see. That down there, that's the farm we're going to buy and have it as our YouTube farm. What's it going to be called?
YouTube Acres.
YouTube Acres. We're going to buy that farm. Both move in. We might have to build you a separate house.
Yeah.
Nice one.
A little studio.
And then we can have, look, we can land the aeroplanes there, build a big shed for all the cars. Good morning, everybody. It is -2. It said in the van this morning. It's freezing cold, but it's Friday. It's the last day down here at the repair shop, and I still haven't fixed the sign. So today is the day. I've taken it out of the van. It's on the bench. At some point today, at lunchtime, if I have to stay late, I will get it bolted to that frame and confirm if it actually fits. Just like that, we are back in the workshop. I finally found some time at the repair shop to grind down the sign. I had to stay late on the Friday. It was getting dark. Everyone was packing up around me. Everyone had pretty much gone. I was the last one out. But I was determined I had to get this thing finished. Yes, I found my M5 bolts. Yes, I did spend some time grinding and sanding down the dodgy welds. It's all looking good. And I'm very pleased to say that it did all line up and it's on. This is the angle it will sit at. So it's that beautiful script uphill. Isn't it great? Thank you so much, everybody, for the feedback and the comments on what colour to paint this thing. It's amazing. Hundreds and hundreds of you commented, so thank you very much. Unfortunately, I was left with hundreds and hundreds of different choices. So many things that I didn't even think about. But I did speak to Chris, who's making the glass, the neon for it. And he said to avoid anything super shiny, so anything chrome or super reflective on the inside would end up causing sort of reflections and then double images of the tubes. So you wouldn't actually, it would be harder to read it from a distance because you would just get reflections and then double tubes and it would get a bit complicated. So I didn't even know that, I didn't think about that. So I thought I'd share that with you because it's an interesting bit of advice. If you're working on signage and things, stay away from shiny things. I'm not going to tell you, I've got a plan. I know what I'm going to do now for the finish. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to wait until the next video to find out. Anyway, I'll leave you to it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. So the next update for the sign will be revealing what finish we actually go for. Then after that, we can go and see Chris and actually bend the neon tubing and actually have a go. So this has been a really fun project. Thank you very, very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Nice one.